What's up? My name is Ashley and I'm a six-figure clothing reseller and I sell on platforms like Poshmark and eBay. Today I'm going to go over what sold in the month of December, so the last month of 2021, to pull all my numbers together. This month, yes, it did have my best sale ever, which is like, it was so crazy. I can't wait to tell you about it. But overall, the month had a lot of things that I feel like I need to talk about. So I've had probably one of my best months in terms of sales and profits, but mostly due to this one item. Without this one item, I probably had one of my worst months in 2021, or at least one of my worst months in terms of how I've been progressing throughout the year. And then with this just happening without that one sale, would have been so bad. But thankfully the sale happened to pull all the numbers together. But just want to put it out there that this was like an outlier for, and if this didn't happen, like some bad things would have come about for this video. It would have been like titled my worst sales months since beginning of 2021. So about the month of December. So the month of December, I was gone for a week and a half because I was traveling for my sister's wedding, and also there was the holidays. There are a ton of days that I didn't put a ton of effort into my selling platforms. There were a couple of days, maybe about like 3 or 4, that I didn't list anything at all, which is very unusual for me. Usually I list every single day of the month or relist every single day of the month. So there are a lot of different things in terms of activity that wasn't as high for this month here. However, I was really adamant about pushing out older items. I sent a ton of offers to just make a couple bucks here and there. So I do have a lot more for my category of my worst sales for the month here, just because I was pushing out so many items. So happy to see those items gone, but overall it really did decrease my profit per item if we were to take out my best sale. So it wasn't anything crazy for the month here, and I only sold 96 items, and usually I'll sell anywhere from like 110 to 140, so it's only under just a little bit, but definitely lower than usual. So with all my sales into all together, I had an average profit of 117 and an average selling price, so after fees, of 173. However, if I were to take out my biggest sale, that would change to $83 profit and $140 after platform fees. So it really did make that much of a difference. So my total number before fees are taken out was $20,184. After selling fees, I made $16,621, and then after my cost of goods, I made $11,269. It's my best month of 21 so far, so despite all the other things and the weird parts of December, I'm very, very happy with how the month ended overall. So getting into the first section here, my worst sales of the month. Why the fuck did I buy this? These items either took really long time to sell, did not sell for a ton of money, and most of the time, both of those things. So the first item is this Iro blazer that sold, or jacket I guess you can say, that sold for $64 after fees. I paid $25 for the item, so I made a $39 profit. Not awful, but it did take about a year to sell. I had originally sourced this for a ThreadUp, which if you watch like all my other videos, you know that I have a ton of items I originally had sourced for ThreadUp that I'm just trying to get rid of out of my Poshmark closet. So this one just did not sell very well. I find in terms of this brand, I'm more so focused on the leather jackets. These like texturized tweed jackets can do well if you like find them at a thrift store or whatnot, and are going to know that they're not going to sell for as high. So just remember that if you come across this jacket, it's not a bad item to sell or to source at all. Just like be careful, don't pay too much for it, and just try to sell it faster and for a lower amount. So the next item are these Lululemon shorts that sold for $60 after Poshmark fees. I paid $41 for them, so I only made a $19 profit, and they took a very long time to sell. They took about a year and a half to sell. Plus, I even had these even longer than a year and a half, so they were listed for a year and a half, but I had these for a very long time from when I was selling on like Facebook and stuff, like Lululemon items, which this is how I had started a lot into reselling. And this pair of shorts was like such a rare pair of shorts that tons of people were looking for. It would sell between like $125 and like $150, and so that is why I had picked this up. But like Lululemon has changed drastically over the years. It's literally crazy how much you cannot sell items for anymore, or how slow that they sell. So like that is why I rarely even pick up rare items anymore. At least I don't pay more for them. I'll love to find them at a thrift store, but they just do not sell at all. Like I guess people don't care about Lululemon anymore. There's just so many other great athletic brands out there. So Sorry, Lululemon. Next are these Free People black skinny jeans. They sold for $17 after Poshmark fees. I paid $2 for them, so I made a $15 profit, and they took 6 months to sell. So if you are like a quantity seller, this is probably like a not so bad sale. However, I don't know, I knew that these weren't going to sell for as much, but for some stupid reason I thought I could maybe sell them for like $30-$40, and I was wrong. And so I'm glad I made like $15 off of them, and they didn't take like over a year to sell, but it's definitely not the kind of sale that I like to have, and it just brings out my profit per item. Next are these Hugo Boss trousers that sold for $25 after eBay fees. I paid $13 for them, so I made a $12 profit, and these took 2.5 years to sell. I had these literally forever. I had these for ThredUp originally, and I knew I paid too much for them, and I knew I was not going to make a lot out of them, but I still like could not sell them even for like pushing them out for $20. I was just trying to make my money back at that point. So the reason why they were such a bad item to pick up is because I couldn't even force people to buy them at like the price I bought them for. So like I was the idiot there. But yeah, I'm glad they sold on eBay, and thank you to that buyer. The next item here is actually a recent mistake on my part, and it is this Wilfred cardigan sweater that sold for $24 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $19 for the item, so I made a $5 profit. Yeah. And it only took 2 months to sell, but that is because as soon as I got back with the item, I actually had got this in New York. I was like, I don't know why I bought this. Like, I like the item. The item overall is a good style, like a Wilfred cardigan. However, it just had a lot of stains in the front. More so, I realized when I got back and saw it in the lighting in my office versus in the store. And I realized I could not just price this at a price I would without the flaws. And I knew I had to price it lower due to all the flaws on it. Like, there were a lot more stains that I had even realized. And I just knew that this item was not worth like the $80 that I thought I could price it at. So I priced it even around just $50, which is already like high. I always price higher to send out offers and negotiate that. So I was totally willing, kind of just to make my money back at that point, because I knew I'd completely made a mistake with this item. So it only took 2 months to sell because I was just trying to get rid of it. I knew it wasn't going to be a good item. Definitely a recent mistake on my part. So be sure that when you are sourcing and find out with flaws, know that if it's got too many flaws, too many stains, it is nowhere worth where it could be at if it was a excellent condition item. The next item here is another Lululemon item from my past. It sold for $25 after Poshmark fees. I paid $22 for it, so I made a $3 profit. It was sitting on Poshmark and it was only listed for 4 months before it sold. However, I also had this item for probably about 3-4 years from when I was specifically sourcing Lululemon items. Back when I had sourced this item, Lululemon scarves were actually really huge. You could sell them like on Poshmark for like $40, and like someone would buy it full price the next day. No one buys the scarves anymore. Like Zippo, nobody wants them. And so I was glad just to even make my money back on this item, because I did pay a lot for just like this scarf here. I knew I just had to get rid of the item and just make my money back. Would definitely not buy this item again. So overall, I was really happy just to get rid of a ton of those items. But now let's move into the items that sold in under a week. So these items here all sold in under a week. They all actually sold on Poshmark as well. So these are items that people are wanting to snag up right away in this current season. So definitely brands and styles to pay attention to in order to make some quick sales. The first item is this Rhode Ella dress. It sold for $122 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $56 for it, so I made a $66 profit. And this one only took 5 days to sell. Now, this style dress here is their best-selling dress. However, I was missing the belt for it, which is a huge part of the dress, and I actually had kept this and had worn it a couple of times beforehand, so I was totally okay with just pricing it based off of missing the belt there, and then just trying to make a sale even lower than what comps would be at because it was missing a belt. So that's why it's always important to go into a listing if there is a lower comp, or even if there is a really higher comp, to see what might be different about it. Maybe it's flawed or missing accessory, which makes the value go down a ton. Next is this vintage pavilion wool coat that sold for $80 after Poshmark fees. I only paid $3 for it at a thrift store, so I made a $77 profit, and it sold in 5 days as well. So I had this item originally on Etsy when I was trying to sell a bunch of like vintage items on there. However, was not making a ton of sales on Etsy, so I had put a couple items on Poshmark, and this one I'm so glad I did. It sold so quick. Because I only paid $3 for it, I was definitely happy taking an offer. I think I had it listed at $129 and I got an offer for $100. I was like, yes, okay, take it. I've had this item for so long. Well, I had it for long on the other platforms, so I was really happy with taking that offer. I usually don't pick up vintage items. However, I have had a lot of luck with vintage wool coats in the past. Definitely something to pay attention to. Not all of them are equal in terms of what they can sell for, but just pay attention to the quality of it, and if it's anything like this one, maybe go ahead and pick it up or look into it a little bit more. This next item is a Burberry trench coat that sold for $422 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $150 for it, so I made a $272 profit, and it sold in 4 days. So this was definitely one of my better profits for the month as well, and it sold very quickly, so I was very happy with this sale. This Burberry coat was a size 4, so definitely a great size. I've talked about this a lot before in all my other videos. The size 4 to like 8 of the Burberry coats always sell a lot better and for a lot more than I find. I do have a ton of other coats that are larger sizes, like 10 to 12, that do not sell for as fast or for as much money. Next is this Free People long like sweater jacket. It sold for $80 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $37 for it, so I made a $43 profit, and it sold in 2 days. So this item I had sourced in person, and I could not find a lot of comps on it. I think there was only one other comp, but I kind of trusted my gut on it because I know with these Free People jackets, it kind of looked like a little bit more of a rare item. It had a look to it that reminded me a lot of this Anthropologie sweater cardigan that does really well, and so I kind of put 2 and 2 together with like that style and Free People and rare items, and knew that this had something to it to look into. My goal was to sell it for over $100 of a listing price, and so it did. I think I only had it listed for $139, and an offer came in as well. Definitely a good item to look out for. Another great thing about selling more of these items that are a little bit more rare or don't have any information on them is now you yourself has more information if you ever come across this item. The last item is this Free People red chunky sweater. It sold for $48 after Poshmark fees. I paid $12 for it at a thrift store, so I made a $36 profit, and it only sold in 1 day. So very happy with the sale. The condition of it had a little bit more wear in the fabric, nothing crazy. So I did price it very similar to comps. Usually I price it a little bit over, but for this one, because there was a lot of newer tags available, priced a lot higher. I did price a little bit lower, very similar to kind of the mid-range of them, and it sold super quickly, so I was very happy about that. I love finding Free People like chunky sweaters when I'm at the thrift store. I usually don't pay too much for them. It depends on the style. However, I do always love coming across them in the thrift store. Now we'll move over to the items that sold for over a $100 profit. This time I don't have a ton to go over. I actually was looking through, pulling out the ones to add into this video, and I had a ton that I had just missed the mark, like had sold between like $95 and $98. The first item here is this I Love Mr. Mittens orange sweater. It sold for $224 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $120 for it, so I made a $104 profit, and it took about 8 months to sell. This is a really great style of sweater to know about, but I will say it is very hard to come across. So just keep that in mind with finding it and trying to source it. There are a ton of them on selling platforms to source. However, they're always super expensive. So definitely like try to manifest it if you're ever in like a consignment or buy sell trade store. Next is this Tory Burch tote that sold for $226 on Tradesy after fees. I paid $126 for it, so I made a $107 profit, and it took 2 months to sell once I had cross-listed it over to Tradesy. I feel like Tory Burch bags are really good staples to add into your closet if you are trying to increase your profit per item or try to move up to more of a higher ASP business to make greater profits. They bring in a lot of eyes to your closet because a ton of people are looking for them since it's such a well-known brand, but still be very particular about the styles. There are a ton of styles that do a lot better for others. It is a brand that's been out there for a long time, so it has a lot of older styles that don't do as well. So just make sure you're doing your research with how much you're paying and how much you know that you're going to be able to sell it for once you look into the item. Next are these Anine Bing studded leather ankle boots that sold for $273 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $158 for them, so I made a $115 profit, and they sold in 7 months. I will say I did pay a little bit too much for these, so I would not recommend paying this much for this style of shoe. I was very happy that a great offer came in for these, but moving forward, I would love to pick up these boots and I would totally sell them again. However, I would not pay close to that much because I did have them price them a little bit higher than the comps, and it did have a tiny bit of scuffs on them. And so I was really waiting for that right buyer. But overall, I probably would try to buy them a little bit cheaper so I can be a little bit more flexible with my price moving forward and try to sell them faster. Next is this Veronica Beard wool gray pea coat that sold for $295 on eBay after fees. I paid $169 for it, so I made a $126 profit, but this took 2 years to sell. So this kind of can go into the category of why the fuck did I buy this. However, it was less of why did I buy this and more of I priced this way too high originally. So it had to do with my pricing, with why it took so long to sell. I originally had it like priced, I think close to like $600 when I had first got it, and then I slowly moved it down to like $500 and then $400. And then once I had it priced around $400, I took an offer for that $300 and then it finally sold. So it definitely had to do with my pricing structure. That's why it's very important to be realistic with how you're pricing things. You definitely want to price them a little bit over to make sure that you have rooms for some great offers. However, you don't want to price them too high. Obviously, selling it for $300, I still made a $126 profit, which is great. And pricing it at $400 and then taking $100 off, which is still a big chunk to make an offer and sell for that price, was a lot smarter than pricing it for $600 and then eventually taking $300. Because overall, like I've said in many videos, again as well, Veronica Beard coats don't do as well as the blazers in terms of how much you can sell it. They could still make a really good sale, just not as high of a selling price. Next is this Alice and Olivia sleeveless dress that sold for $207 on eBay after fees. I paid $79 for it, so I made a $128 profit and it sold in 2 months. So this overall was a very great sale, something I was very happy with. Alice and Olivia, I used to be like, I literally hate this brand and I was so against it, but Alice and Olivia is one of those brands that there's so many styles out there, and there's so many that do so bad, and then there's so many that do so good. So it's just one of those brands to do some good research on because it does have a lot of great styles that can sell for good money. Next is this Kate Wise sweater that sold for $144 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $9 for it, so I made a $135 profit, and it only took a month to sell. So definitely a brand to look out for. Very interesting brand. From what I could tell of it, it is a brand that they sell the fabric on Etsy and you still have to make the sweater or the item. So maybe that's why it costs a little bit more, because I mean it's all handmade by like the buyer, which is interesting, not by the person who like sold the fabric. That's what I took from it, unless I'm totally missing something out there. So what really caught my eye with it at the thrift store is that it said recycled, and anything that's like recycled, sustainable, handmade definitely perks my interest, and it had a little bit of a uniqueness to it, and so definitely looked it up and so glad I did. I actually found 2 sweaters from that brand, so very happy about those and the sale. Next are these Goldie leather pants that sold for $221 after fees on eBay. I paid $85 for them, so I made a $136 profit. It only took 1 month to sell. Goldie's a very great brand to source, plus the leather pants and faux leather pants are so in style right now, so paired with the trendiness of it and paired with the brand, people were really looking for these items. This is a very desirable item, so that is why I had sourced it, and it made such a great sale in a short amount of time. Next is this old gringo leather jacket that sold for $198 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $60 for it, so I made a $138 profit, and it took 8 months to sell. I also originally had this item priced very high. I had it priced at like $500. There wasn't as much information on it, with it being the brand Old Gringo and it being a leather jacket. I decided to see how it would do at that price. To be honest, I wasn't getting much traction for it, and so going through with December dropping a lot of prices, I decided to send out a half off discount for it, and so I was very happy it sold. I only paid $60 for it. Originally when I was at the store, I thought it was like $200 and it was on sale that I didn't even know about, so definitely snagged that up. But only paying $60 for it, I knew I had a lot of margin to make a great profit on it, so I was totally okay dropping the price to that $250 and still making an over $100 profit. Next is this Veronica Beard blazer jacket that sold for $221 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $70 for it, so I made a $151 profit, and it took 4 months to sell. This is a pretty decent style, I'm sure, of Veronica Beard. Actually, this is probably the style that first got me into selling Veronica Beard blazers. I had found it at a buy-sell trade store, and it sold full price like in 3 days on Tradesy for like $500. So I was like, oh wow, like I like this brand. And so it shows that it doesn't mean that you can always sell things for like the same price, but overall very happy with this sale. I've definitely seen that Veronica Beard blazers actually don't even sell for as much as they used to before, as you can see from where I had sold it originally a couple months ago, or actually probably like a year and a half ago, because it's before COVID, so COVID's been a long time, so probably like 2 years ago. That's something to remember. It's unfortunately how things go in the reselling world. The more people know about brands, the more people that they sell them, and then over time it just like tanks the reselling market. So that is why you just learn the up and coming brands. Next is this J.Crew collection leather jacket that sold for $205 on eBay after fees. I paid $54 for it, so I made a $151 profit, and it only took 3 months to sell. So very happy about the selling rate of this item as well as the profit I made off of it. J.Crew Collection is a part of J.Crew that actually sells things for a little bit higher in terms of the retail. It has a little bit of the better quality for it. So a lot of the times, a lot of the J.Crew Collection can sell for a little bit more in terms of the reselling platforms than J.Crew. It still just does depend on the style of the item, so be wary of that, but it does have the style name just like all the other J.Crew items, or should I say style number, so it's super easy to look up. So the next item is this Iro leather jacket that sold for $314 on eBay after fees. I paid $160 for it, so I made a $154 profit, and it took 1 month to sell. These leather jackets, they're getting a teeny bit saturated. The black ones always do the best. There is one specific style, I always forget the name of it. I think the Asheville. The Astral always does really well, but just be sure that you're sourcing these jackets, if you are looking into sourcing them, that they are a good size, a good color, and that the condition is really good, because buyers are starting to have a lot of different options into buying them on specific reselling platforms. So I'm actually going to put in my best sale of the month here to thank you for watching the video till now instead of skipping to the end and trying to find it then, which if you have done that and just backtracked here, at least you had to take some time to find it. But thank you if you watched the whole entire video to get to where this is now. So I'm going to share with you my best sale ever. I'm like literally shaking right now even talking about it, because it is crazy and it's still not complete, but when this video comes out it should be, and fingers crossed, like nothing has happened now. It's been so long, so it should be fine. But okay, I'm just gonna say it. So my best sale literally ever is this vintage Levi's jacket that sold for $3,360 on eBay, and I paid $3 for it. So I made a $3,357 profit on this item. Like, I don't think my hands are straight right now, but like so crazy. This month would not be where it was at all without this $3,000 profit. So that shows you, without the $3,000 profit, where I'd be at without that sale. So a little backstory on the item. Came across this item in a thrift store, went home, looked it up with my friend Megan, and I first looked on Poshmark, and I was like, oh my god, like this jacket is selling for like $400. Like, wow, oh my god, such a great find. And we're like, this is amazing. And then we looked it up on eBay, which That's why it's always great to look up things on eBay, because sometimes they sell for tons more, especially if it's like a vintage item. And jackets were going for so much more. So we had looked at ones that are going for like $1,500, $2,000, and then eventually I came across this exact jacket. So it had this same like style, like the numerals on the tag, and it had all the same rivets and everything like that, and the same like color. And that one had sold for $6,000 in an auction literally yesterday, like the day before it had sold, and like now I had the same jacket like in my hands. It was a different size though, and I don't know if there are other things going on with it. I'm honestly not like a vintage expert, so I don't totally know. I did end up holding on to this item for 2 years because I wanted to hold out for it. When I had first posted the item, I had an auction for it, but seeing what it had sold at before, I did have a reserve price on it. And what that is on eBay is you can say, hey, if no one bids up to this amount on it, so it's kind of like a minimum price, then the auction like doesn't go through. Like it needs to hit this amount. I need to make this much money or else nobody gets it. But you do have to pay a specific price in order to have that reserve even on your auction. And because this item was very high and I wanted my reserve price to be like $3,000, the reserve cost for that was like $250. And so it didn't sell the first time, and I wasn't gonna keep paying $250 on an auction to hopefully have this reserve be met. So that is why I decided just to list it for a best offer price. And I listed it for about $5,000, so which was less than what the other auction had got to before. And so originally I was like, I'm gonna sell this in like a week. Like this item is desirable. Like I have it priced for like $1,000 less. Like somebody's gonna buy it. However, it wasn't the case. I got like a ton of offers for like $1,000, $2,000, but I was not gonna sell it for that price. So I was eventually gonna be like $4,500, fine with that. Eventually the offer came in, obviously in December for about $3,600, I think it was. And that being so close to that $4,000 for having it so long and me not ever getting a reasonable offer for it, I decided to go ahead and take it to finally make the sale. Who knows? I'm not in the vintage Levi's market, so if this person is about to go to in-person auction and sell it for $3,000 more, kudos for them. I got what I wanted for it. I waited long enough to try to get that higher amount. So it is what it is, what that next person wants to do with it, or if they send it as a gift, because I did have to expedite it for Christmas Eve. I'm just happy to have that sale, obviously. I originally knew to look into it because I had watched the Levi's documentary on Netflix or Hulu. It's on one of those streaming platforms. I don't know if it's still on there, but it goes into about essentially the reselling market of Levi's and vintage Levi's and what differentiates like a really, really rare Levi's versus just like the newer ones or like the just normal 501s. This one had different numbers on it. I'll put the tag here because I totally forgot. I had like the XX on it, I think it is, which if anything has like an XX on it, that definitely shows that it's like vintage of some kind. And there is something about like the rivets on there as well. Just watch the documentary because it's been a while and I don't remember everything totally, but it's definitely super educational if you ever come across Levi's, and also to make sure that if you ever come across Levi's and it is a really rare item, that you don't sell yourself short. So making over $3,000 off one item, I don't think I'll ever do that again. I do have one item that potentially has the cause for that, but that will probably be closer to $2,000. But this item here, to have paid $3 for it at a thrift store, this is like a reseller dream. So I'm glad my dreams came true, and I will always remember this sale. So now getting back into normal items, which these seem so low now comparatively, but still over $150 profit. We have a couple more items that I did sell this month. The next one being this Dior wallet. It sold for $239 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $81 for it, so I made a $158 profit, and it only took 1 month to sell. So I know the style is like the saddle style, so if you ever see it looks like a saddle, like goes like this. There are bags of that style, there are wallets. That I know is a pretty desirable style of this brand. There are the saddle bags that go for a ton of money more. Still do your research on that. I'm not an expert on exactly all about the different styles and ages and dates of them, but there still are vintage ones and newer ones that are going to differ in prices, but just be on the lookout for the saddle style. Next is this Marc by Marc Jacobs iridescent crossbody that sold for $219 on eBay after fees. I paid $60 for it, so I made a $159 profit, and it also only took 1 month to sell. So I am really picky on Marc by Marc Jacobs, but this just like colorway stood out to me. It was very unique and different, so I looked it up, and sure enough was a very desirable style of it. So I picked it up, sold it in a month, and made a profit. So always be on the lookout for anything super unique. Unique in my 3 years of selling on Poshmark always tends to do a lot better and sometimes sell for a lot more than any really basic stuff. But the basics always have their places in people's hearts as well. Just depends on the style. Next is this Burberry jacket that sold for $199 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $25 for it. This was actually a really great thrift store find. So I made a $174 profit. It did take 7 months to sell, so it did take a little bit longer, but I knew what I wanted for it, and I'm glad it didn't take over a year to sell. Still made myself a great profit on it. I didn't want to drop the price like too low. I sold it for like $250, so I didn't want to drop it too low, like close to $200, because I know the Burberry and the jackets are worth a lot more for that, so I didn't want to mess around with the value of the item and sell it for a lot less than it was worth. I couldn't find any really particular comps on it, so if it got to like over a year, I would definitely have considered selling it for like $150 to $200, and just been like, okay, there's something about this style that I don't know about. It's not out there on the internet. I just need to sell it for less for. But with the timeline I was at, I was happy selling it for the price that I did without being too low. Next is this Prada nylon shoulder bag that sold for $379 on Tradesy after fees. I paid $155 for it, so I made a $224 profit, and once I cross-listed it to Tradesy, it only took 3 months to sell. Tradesy does do a lot better sometimes with those really designer items, especially if it's super trendy, so something to look into for crossing over to Tradesy. I personally only cross-list over the items I sell for over $100 on there, and you could be a little bit more pickier if you just wanted to list those really common, desirable designers on there as well. Those are going to be the items that sell good on there. So this style is a very popular style, which is why I had decided to source it, and really happy with the sale and the profit that it produced. We have 2 more items here. The next item is this We the Free / Free People leather jacket that sold for $285 after fees on eBay. I paid $50 for it, so I made a $235 profit, and it only took 2 months to sell. This was a new attack item, and I was actually kind of hoping to make a little bit more. I had it listed for $500. I think it originally retailed for like $600, and there wasn't any others out there, so mine was the only one. And so I was hoping to sell for a little bit more, but happy with the profit I was still going to make from it. And the person had a nice message. Usually those don't get to me, but I was going to make a good profit on it anyways, and so I went ahead and just accepted the offer with it, since, you know, eBay as well doesn't take as high as fees, so it's basically going to be like the same thing as if I sold it for like $425 on Poshmark, which I would have done probably as well. Lastly is this Vanson leather jacket that sold for $361 on eBay after fees. I paid $90 for this, so I made a $271 profit, and it took 2 months to sell. So this is a men's leather jacket, so if you ever find yourself in the men's section, definitely be on the lookout for this brand. All the leather jackets tend to do really well. I think they do a lot of like race car leather jackets as well. I didn't do that much research on it. I just like looked at the comps on it, and they sell very well, more so on eBay. I actually had sold this prior on eBay, and the person just never bought it, and I did get a lot of attention on it, so it is definitely a brand to know about and to look out for. So that is it for the month of December and my sales of what sold. So happy to have ended the month with that sale there and really pull all my numbers together and have a check off of my reseller bucket list to make that kind of sale. And I am having a new goal each month to make at least $11,000 in profit each month. So I'm trying to set that standard for myself and just keep going up from there, just adding more items to my closet, and also trying to sell things and send out offers that are a little bit more competitive to try to just get the profit that I want for the items and just turn over things a little bit quicker. So that is what I'm really currently focusing at the time. Please let me know how your December was and any successes that you have, or if there's any brands out here that you didn't know about, that you learned about. I would love to hear that. If you have any specific questions you would like to message me privately, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram at ReCloth Collection. If you're trying to level up your knowledge in terms of the reselling game, I have a ton of resources on my website, reclothcollection.com, especially specifically regarding brands and styles. I have a monthly newsletter that goes over different brands and their styles that are currently trending and what to look out for them for, as well as specific mall brands or regular type of brands that have a really specific style that does a lot better than their normal stuff. And that is a monthly newsletter that you subscribe to and can cancel at any time. And then if you want to go full force and just changing your strategy, focusing on higher profit and different sourcing methods, such as at consignment stores and online, and also just pulling together all the strategies that I use, be sure to look at my 6-figure reseller guide. I essentially just poured literally everything that I know into that guide, and anything that is not in that guide, we do a quarterly session call so that I cover all of your questions and just cover any new updates that are going on to make sure that you are improving your reselling game month after month. And that as well too includes the newsletter, free of cost, because you do also get an Instagram page that has a bunch of Bolo styles and brands into it, and the newsletter is very similar to that, and you're getting a lot of the same information. So that's why I allow you just to get on the newsletter for free, since it wouldn't make sense for you to pay for that as well. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel. I put out videos every single Wednesday all about reselling, business, and of the like, so be sure to check that out every single Wednesday, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.